Well, the Pope in 1571 had this painting put up, and I was hoping to go see that while I was in Italy this year, but I discovered you have to be a very special guest of the Pope to get in that part of the Vatican. Yeah, couldn't make it. So I just have to, I can go in and, I can look around the room with my computer, kind of like you can do with your map program, but that's as close as I'm going to get, I think. But that painting was put up in 1571. The Muslims are on the right, by the way. They have the skeletons. The next year, 2 other paintings were put up celebrating the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, when in less than a week's time, or about a week's time, most of them on the first day, 70,000 Huguenots were killed in France. What was their crime? They were following the Bible instead of the teachings of the church. And the Catholic Church double-crossed them, told them nobody would bother them, they could have this huge event. They came out for the huge event, and the Catholics killed them. So much for the word of the King. Some writers called it the darkest day of human history. The bells in St. Peter's rang for joy at the news of the 70,000 deaths. Oh, and the Pope is the man of peace. That's what is said. But if you study the history, it's a little different. I mean, a lot different. Why does God allow these Muslim invasions? Well, it tells us in the Bible. But the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues did not repent of the works of their hands, that they should not worship demons and idols of gold, silver, brass, stone, and wood, which can neither see nor hear nor walk. And they did not repent of their murders or their sorceries or their sexual immorality or their thefts. Notice that's in Revelation 9, talking about the woes, the Islamic invasions. So what's going on? In the Old Testament, whenever they started worshiping idols, did they gain or lose protection of God's people? I mean, God for the people. They lost it, right? What do you think is going to happen in New Testament times when they start putting up images and bowing down and worshiping? Are you going to gain or lose protection? God is clear. He's the same then and now. They lost protection. And in came the Muslims. And what did Muhammad especially hate? Image worship. Isn't that interesting? Now, God worked this all for good. I have no question about that. One, it was against image worship, but the text already said it wasn't going to do any good. They weren't going to repent anyway. And that ended up being true. But what we have up here in Germany, there's a monk up there by the name of Martin Luther. And he starts studying, and he's reading the writings of Wycliffe and others, and Martin Luther turns the Reformation into high-speed overdrive by nailing the 95 Theses to the Wittenberg chapel door, and that gets published all over Europe. And oh man, the papacy wanted to go up north and take out Martin Luther. But they had a problem. Every time they tried to put an army together to go up there, you see it took an army because there were some princes that were protecting Martin Luther up there with their small armies. So the papacy would need a larger army to go take him. And every time they started to come up, the Turks would push in from the south. And so they have to get the armies back, and they need to get Martin Luther's friends, those princes, to help them stop the Turks. And after a few rounds of this, Martin Luther actually wrote that he believed his greatest defender was the Sultan of Turkey. Because every time they came after him, it seemed like the Turks came in. And because of the Muslims pushing from the south, the Bible in common languages got published. And righteousness by faith was taught again. And the cat was out of the bag, and they could never be put back in. But the Catholic Church would have shut it down if it wasn't for the Muslims. God used it all for good.